Hi everybody, Russ and the WESTHAM Network. Hope you are all safe and well. Wednesday is Wednesday, isn't it? Yep, hump day. If you're new, Andy, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a good subscribe, all that good stuff. Maybe become a channel member. Why not? Everyone else is over 50 odd. We had our first member show yesterday, which was quite good fun. And we bring you another appreciation night. We haven't done them for a while, so we're bringing them back. The next series, so to speak. And obviously, as you saw by the title, it is the Sir Geoff Hurst appreciation night. Now, obviously, I'm not old enough. You know, young boy skin, moisturise every day. I'm not old enough to remember Sir Geoff. I wasn't around. I was bare. Was my dad around? Yeah, my dad was around, yeah. But just to make some people feel really old, I'll bring them on. Let's bring on the voice of London Stadium, Mr. Martin Godliman. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. And it's what a delight it is to see how absolutely superb your presentations are. You've gone from cardboard to steel in the last time I saw you.
There we go. It's almost like we didn't see each other, and it's almost like, when did we last see each other? Saturday, that was it.
Yes, it's been so long.
It's been so long, and we'll see each other on Sunday.
Since we've seen West Ham win. Watford, I think it was. But there you go.
Yeah.
Like, win well. When was the last time we won well, Russ?
November. I was going to say November.
Jerry Gulp moment.
I reckon the last time we played well and won was in November.
So, Wolves play in the week and beat Arsenal, which is great. We don't play in the week, so we're fresher. We play Wolves on Sunday. Real chance to get back in the action, yeah?
It certainly is. It certainly is. Yeah, as you said, I think it's going to be a major game for us because, if we win, and also, Burnley are beating Spurs 1-0.
Get in, my son! Wait!
Indeed.
Has that just happened?
Yeah, 75th minute, yeah.
Oh, Russ, you always make me feel better.
I always make you feel better.
Feel better.
Let me bring someone else who makes me feel better every time I listen to him. Hang on, I haven't got Sean Winston. Sorry, I've got Nigel instead. There he is.
I want to know why Martin ain't got the football on behind him.
What do you think that is?
Because he's got to pay. Because he's already got Sky. He can't not going to pay for
game playing behind.
Yeah, there is.
What do you think I should now? Who is Sky doing? It'll be an EFL game.
EFL. They do. I want to say it's Huddersfield, but I don't know if it is.
Will BT be covering the Ajax game, in which we are all aware that Sebastian Haller has scored at both ends? Should I have the Ajax game going in the background? Should I?
Probably for copyright reasons, probably not, to be honest.
Probably not. We're talking about strikers, though, tonight. Are we not, Nige? Are we not talking about strikers?
One of the best, I believe. One of the best.
I'm going to very controversially compare Jimmy Greaves and Geoff Hurst. And I'm going to start with a stat that doesn't favour Hurst, and that is, bearing in mind he took his place for him, that Greaves, in 57 appearances, scored 44 goals, which was the best record until Bobby Charlton overtook it. And for Hurst, 49 appearances, only 24 goals.
Yeah, but I think Greaves...
Keith, that's 72, sorry. 72, mate. 71, 72, Keith.
But, I mean, Bobby Charlton did his in 104 games, though, didn't he?
Mm. He did. 105 games. Moore was 106.
Yeah. But, I mean, his first goals for England were the World Cup goals, weren't they? Against Argentina, I believe.
When the one where Rattins got sent off?
Yes. I think that was Hurst's first goal for England.
And I think, I think you might be right there. He scored against France as well, didn't he, in the quarterfinal?
No. Argentina was the quarterfinal. France was the game. He came in.
Was the 16?
For the Argentina game. We then beat Portugal. In
the semis.
Roger Hunt.
A thunderbolt from Bobby Charlton.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it said on Pathé News. A thunderbolt from Bobby Charlton. What? Meanwhile, isn't it great? Most of the people out there going, "What are they talking about?"
I think I'm just literally,
what are they talking about?
I know these things I don't say much, but I'm literally not going to say anything today because I don't know anything about Sir Geoff apart from the basics. So I'm going to sit here and learn like everyone else. I might even sit in the background, just let you two talk. To be honest,
that's all right. It's okay, Russ. This is your show. You're kind of organising thing. That makes you probably the most important person, really. There's no organisation and it doesn't work, does it?
You got to push the buttons.
I've got to push the buttons. We'll get ready for Sunday.
Don't push more buttons.
Busman's holiday.
Listen, if you are under the age of, I would say it would be 50, 60. Wouldn't it? Really, you are going to be entertained this evening. It's just going to be a history lesson for you. But if you're over than that, if you're like us old geezers, you'll go, Johnny Byrne, I remember him, old Budgie Byrne. Budgie Byrne actually scored more goals than Geoff Hurst in Geoff Hurst's first season as a striker. But between them, they scored more goals than McAvenny and Cotty in that season.
Calm down, Martin.
Something to think about. There's lots more of that coming. And we're also going to look for you younger chaps and chapesses at a comparison between Jimmy Greaves and Sir Geoff Hurst. And there's something to think about because people go, well, Greaves, easily the best striker this country ever had. I would personally say Brian Clough was before he broke his leg. That's another story if you look at the goals per game ratio. But I'm going to put out
Clough did his in the lower league, apart from with Sunderland. So
no, I'm talking about with the ones with Middlesbrough.
Yeah, but they were all in
Division 2. Good point. But I've got to say, Nigel, nobody, even in the lower leagues, was as proficient as him.
No.
And of course, in those days, you know, there wasn't nearly as much difference between Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. Not nearly as much as there is today. Because obviously footballers got their wage, which wasn't very much. They used to go to games on the bus, meet the fans on the bus. It was a working man's game, really, in those days. And, you know, it was another profession, you know, and not one that paid very well. So you had to be pretty dedicated or pretty good to stick at it in those days. Slightly controversial, I know, but there you go. Whereas to try telling that to Mason Mount and Declan Rice, a friendship we're going to this evening compare to the friendship between Bobby Moore and Jimmy Greaves. And remember what happened to Jimmy Greaves? He eventually went to join his old mate. So we're going to hope that that is not going to be repeated. And I should absolutely foul upon me to have even voiced the idea.
Yeah, but of course, you're forgetting that Moore wanted to join Jimmy Greaves at Tottenham before the World Cup.
Don't complicate things. It's not a good story. Oh, so what we're supposed to see by that is that Mason Mount might go, you know, West Ham, It's a bit more.
I think it's more likely the other way. But
yeah.
Can you imagine? Or they both go into Milan or something.
Yeah.
But there we go. Anyway, Russ,
Yes.
the buttons, because we've actually got our usual little thing to for all those people who haven't seen Mr. Hurst in action or only saw goals here and there and the World Cup final goals, didn't realise how many goals he scored for West Ham. Was it 297? And was it in all competitions?
Yeah, in all competitions.
And I think you'll find that is almost a goal every other game. And I think to this day, apart from someone who maybe played 2 games for West Ham and scored in one of them, he is still far and away the best goal per game ratio West Ham striker ever. I'm pretty sure of that. Wow. But he did play a lot of games, but he did score a lot of goals. But for 2 seasons, he wasn't the top scorer. And that's the question I'm throwing at people while they watch this film. You don't have to get the exact season because clearly that's nuts, but can you name the 2 strikers playing alongside Hurst? I kind of slipped one in a bit earlier if you were listening. You maybe weren't. The 2 strikers alongside Hurst, the only 2 West Ham strikers who scored more goals than him in the same season where they were playing striker with him. I'll give you a clue. One was at the beginning of Hurst's career, and one was right at the end. And one unsung hero who we might do in weeks to come because he's a real friend of mine and kind of absolutely wonderful man, brilliant man.
That'd be good because I can get my photograph out I got of him with me.
Good, we got all that stuff. All that stuff. Do not go away. It's 9:15. You are in for so much fun. If you love West Ham, and if you love Nigel, and if you love Russ even more, you are going to have so much fun. Cue Maestro, the film.
Cue Maestro. Right, let's mute everyone so no one talks.
Sir Geoff Hurst was born in Ashton-under-Lyne near Manchester in 1941, but his family moved to Essex just after the war, and it was here that Hurst learned and played his football. Both Arsenal and West Ham were interested in the young Hurst, but West Ham manager Ted Fenton beat the Gunners to his signature. However, it was when Ron Greenwood came to West Ham in April 1961 that Hurst's career really took off. He'd been playing cricket for Essex, but chose football when it came to the crunch. Good for England that he did, though Hurst started his West Ham career playing left half, but he soon teamed up with Johnny Budgie Byrne, the 2 scoring and making goals for each other throughout the early 60s. Here are 8 examples of Hurst the goalmaker, as he's very rarely remembered, but as you'll see, it's a description he certainly earned.
Away goes Hurst. Can he do it in the dying seconds? Braybrook. Are we going to have a sensational ending? Yes, we are! It's a goal! And that must be the winner! This is Hurst. Oh, beautiful ball to Byrne. He scored. Seeley with the corner for West Ham. Hurst and the goal! Byrne has won his hat-trick. And here comes Moore. Ramping through that sticky mud. Looked a bit over the line, but the line's good. Says no. Now Hurst. Hurst to Peters. Peters gets the ball.
It's not a bad looking ball. Hurst has got onto it. Sjoberg's tackle, though, doesn't go out. Hurst, he's got Deere in the centre. What a cross, and what a goal by Brian Deere. It's the equaliser, but a great cross from Geoff Hurst.
Free kick to West Ham. Hurst. Peters, the goal! Westham does so. Greaves! Oh, Greaves! He's done it! Jimmy Greaves! The goal he wanted! For Hurst. Oh, Robson in the clear. And a goal! Brian Robson, his second goal! Made for him by Geoff Hurst.
Hurst, of course, was part of the 1964 FA Cup winning side that beat Preston at Wembley, and was at Wembley the following year for Hammer's second successive Wembley trophy, the European Cup Winners' Cup. As one part of the World Cup triumvirate that also included Bobby Moore and Martin Peters, Hurst made it 3 years on the trot in 1966, but this time in an England shirt, to hit a quite unprecedented hat-trick in a World Cup final, a feat not achieved before or since.
And here come the 3 World Cup players coming out on the road. Bobby Moore 5, number 10 Geoff Hurst, the man who got the hat-trick, number 4 Martin Peters. And the Chelsea players stand and applaud the 3 great stars of West Ham United and England, the world champions.
At the time of his achievement, Hurst was West Ham's top striker, scoring 40 that season for the club and 41 the following season, including 3 hat-tricks. The club achievements were all but over after that fantastic summer of '66, though Hurst's personal achievements went on, notably scoring 6 goals in 53 minutes on one Saturday afternoon in late October 1968 against Sunderland, a hat-trick in each half. What else could a man with a World Cup final hat-trick do after achieving that feat? Here are 12 of the 249 goals he scored for West Ham.
Lawrence, huge kick which Peters towers up to head straight back into Hurst's path, and Hammers have a second. Early on in the second half, West Ham go 2-1 in the lead. A wonderful header from Peters, but Hurst did the finishing. It's 2-1.
Burn to Brown. And here's Peters, that was a bad clearance. Sissons. And Sissons, Hurst, number 3. Sissons going outside him on the left. That's the way he plays it. Now Moore coming up in support from behind. Hurst is on the far post. Here's Hurst! Yes, Geoff Hurst, number 10, and so it's 1-1. Hurst again. Good ball for Redknapp if he can catch it. Got Braybrook out there, but he's aiming for the far post. Watch Hurst again! Yes, indeed! Geoff Hurst, number 10. There he is, Geoff Hurst makes it 2-1. Geoff Hurst. Could this be his hat-trick? Here's Hurst. 3-1. Hurst's hat-trick. Now Redknapp. Redknapp making a lot of speed. Oh, Hurst! Geoff Hurst! There he is. Number 4 for Geoff Hurst. Number 4 for West Ham. With Peters in moves Hurst.
Hurst on his left, he's got Moncur still to beat. He's beaten him, now the chance, and finished off beautifully by Geoff Hurst. And it's allowed. Appeals, I think, almost for offside, half-hearted appeals, but no doubt about that.
Header well won that gives Bonds a bit of space. Brooking out on the left. He's got to go wide to collect this. But there are 3 up for him. Hits the ball to the far post. Best, great control. Round 1, he's down. It's a penalty. just a quarter of an hour after Stoke took the lead. And the responsibility now on the shoulders of Geoff Hurst against his England colleague, Gordon Banks, to put West Ham back in this game. Whoa, what a penalty. Banks almost got there, but the sheer power took the ball past him.
And Robson again. Lampard. Brooking. Again, that lovely dummy of his where he lets the ball run. But that's not such a good cross. And Burns. And Redknapp was in quickly, and Burns was a little slow. And he had to hurry into a clearance there, and he felt that the ball must have come off Redknapp. But the referee, I think, has given it the other way. Yes, the throw to West Ham. It's with McDowell. And that really was a nothing. Was that handball? It was handball by Gowling. And it's going to be a penalty for West Ham. Gowling complaining, but the referee having none of it. And I wonder where Geoff Hurst will place this one, remembering how his penalty was saved. His penalty was saved by Banks the last time here. And now it's Hurst against Alex Stepney. And he made no mistake. 3-0 to West Ham. Geoff Hurst the penalty. And poor Alex Stepney from behind his goal there. And yet again, Brooking. Good play there by Brooking. Turned in towards Hurst. Oh, and a goal by Hurst. 1-0 to West Ham. With under 2 minutes gone.
Hurst had scored an incredible 43 League Cup goals for West Ham in just 11 seasons as he prepared to take an extra-time penalty against Stoke City in the semi-final second leg at Upton Park against his World Cup winning colleague Gordon Banks.
And now it's Hurst against Banks, and Banks has saved it miraculously.
It would mean a Wembley final against Chelsea. That 44th goal in the League Cup was not to be. Banks' save in the 116th minute was said by those who were there to have been every bit as good as the one in the World Cup from Pelé 2 years previously in Mexico. Stoke then won the replay and the cup against Chelsea at Wembley. And it still remains the only major trophy the club has ever won, while it's the only domestic trophy West Ham have still to win. Hurst left West Ham at the end of that season and went to Stoke for £80,000, where he went on to enjoy 2 seasons of European football, the first of which that penalty miss had earned. And on his return to Upton Park, it took him just 9 minutes to find the back of the West Ham net.
Hit to the far post. Up goes Hurst! Against his old club. And listen to the applause from the West Ham fans as Stoke take the lead. They don't forget their heroes in the East End, and this was a hero.
Geoff Hurst became an England coach in 1977 and had a short stint as manager of Chelsea from 1979 to 1981. He was knighted for services to the game in 1998, but he'll always be associated with that World Cup final hat-trick. Even so, Geoff Hurst, Sir Geoff, will best be remembered for those 249 goals in 500 games, almost 1 goal every second game, a record that few have achieved, and it's one that very few players are ever likely to emulate.
And there we go. There we go. Right, let's just unmute everybody. There we go. Before we start talking about Sir Geoff, Burnley 1, Spurs 0.
Is that it?
That's it.
Finished.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
They can beat Man City, and they've lost.
Just to get everyone in a good mood. Okay, right.
Burnley need the points, so that's a good win for Burnley. Well done, Burnley. Well done, Burnley.
Great vid, Martin. Great vid.
Yeah, thank you, great mate. Thank you, great mate. You may have noticed a 6-year-old me doing some of the commentary there with a kind of 40-year-old voice, which is the magic of not wanting to incur the BBC's wrath by playing copyright commentary. So there you go. Sorry about that. But it was actually, as you saw, and would have no doubt corrected me, 249, not 297. I knew it was short of a landmark, and the landmark was 250, which he didn't quite get in about 500 appearances for West Ham.
Yeah, you was right though about the goal every other game. 502 appearances in all competitions.
Can you imagine how many goals would Antonio have if he was scoring a goal every other game?
He's played 200 and something games for us.
So he would have 101
100 and something goals.
Yeah.
And how many has he got?
55.
So
that's league goal. Yeah, that's league goal.
That's one every 4. And that is not to be dismissed either, because obviously in the Premier League, it's a different kettle of fish. The thing is, we haven't. What are you seeing? Something else? You're worrying me.
No, the thing about Geoff Hurst is his first 40 games, he only scored 1 goal.
Right, because he was playing half back under Ted Fenton. And did you know there's some odd things, some odd stats about Hurst that I found out. For example, in February 1960, 2 players made their debut for West Ham that month. One of them was Geoff Hurst. You'd never guess who was the other one.
Well, Martin Peters, obviously, I would guess.
No. This is before Peters.
When did you say 1960?
1960. He made his debut in February 1960. And one other very famous West Ham figure, there's a clue, made his debut that same month, 2 matches earlier. So we talked about February 1960. No.
Brooking.
Russ.
Brooking.
John Lyle.
John Lyle.
Lyle.
Wow.
2 matches before. And the other thing, which is just weird, is that Hurst covered for Moore when he made his debut. Moore did not play in that game. In fact, let me give you most of these names won't mean anything to most of you, but for the old guys, they don't actually mean that much to me either, but I'm reading them because I've done the research. This was the team, the West Ham team that Geoff Hurst played in on the 27th of February. So we're talking about 62 years ago. In goal, Brian Rhodes, Joe Kirkup, which you might know, John Lyle, Andy Malcolm, Ken Brown, of course, you'll all know. Ken Brown Sr., I would say now. Geoff Hurst, Anthony Scott, Phil Woosnam, people will remember, Malcolm Musgrove. And listen to these 2 guys who were playing in attack that day, but didn't normally, John Bond and Noel Cantwell. So this was a thing that teams used to do. And this is obviously Ted Fenton, desperate. I need a striker, so let's put John Bond and Noel Cantwell up front. Jesus. And I'm going to say to Ted Fenton, no, just hang on a minute, mate. In that team is a bloke who's going to score a hat-trick for England in 6 years. Why don't you put him up front? And in the end, he didn't. Ron Greenwood did. And that, of course, changes, the world. And another fascinating thing, and I think it's fascinating because I'm sad. Who played his last game for West Ham in the same game that Hurst played his last game for West Ham? And anyone who can answer this question, bearing in mind that's a game I actually saw, so I can claim some. This would have been. I'll tell you when it was. It wasn't that long ago. This is and actually,
I think I know who that is.
Say again. You do know.
I know. I think I know.
All right. Hold up. I'm going to give you the chance to put. That was the first game where I was disappointed with Bobby Moore. Can you believe that? He had the ball taken off him by a young Liverpool player called Steve Highway, who scored, and John Toshak, a young Welsh striker, scored in the 9th minute. And that season, 71-72, Derby County won the title by 1 point. And there were 3 teams who had 1 point less. What a season. Leeds, Liverpool, Man City. Derby did it by 1 point, which was amazing. And West Ham, of course, were 14th that year. That's another story. And who do you think, Nigel, was the guy who also made his last appearance in that game?
Did he come back to manage us?
Yes, he did.
You do know.
So it was Harry Redknapp's last game for West Ham.
Harry Redknapp. And that last Hurst team, that his last game was, there were still 2 matches left in that season. For some reason, he didn't play. I'm not sure if he went then. But Bobby Ferguson, John McDowell, who made the mistake for the Toshak goal, Frank Lampard, Billy Bonds, Tommy Taylor, Bobby Moore, Harry Redknapp, Clyde Best, Geoff Hurst, Trevor Brooking, and Brian Robson. And some amazing seasons were to come after that, but very good, Nigel. I'm massively impressed. And I mean it. Massively impressed.
Of course, their careers went in different paths because obviously Hurst joined Stoke, who played with some of their best ever players, the likes of Greenough and Hudson.
George Eastham.
Eastham. Yeah, the great stars. That's Stoke's best ever team. And Harry went to Bournemouth.
He did go to Bournemouth, but then he did come back to beat Manchester United as a Bournemouth manager. So, and we've got to say, he did better as manager than Sir Geoff. But
yes.
What is memorable about the 71-72 season and also the 63-64 season, which was Geoff Hurst's first season as a striker. So you're talking about his last season as a striker and his first season as a striker. I'll tell you what, he scored 26 goals in his first season as a striker, 63-64. But he was eclipsed by somebody who got 33. You had a clue if you were watching that video earlier.
You want me to say it? Or
I do.
I believe it was Budgie Byrne who
it was Johnny Budgie Byrne. So who was the guy, who was the hero of ours, and I know he's a hero of Russ's, who scored 23 goals in Geoff Hurst's last season when Geoff Hurst himself scored 16. That's still pretty good for his last season. Half of those were in the Cup, which is extraordinary. 8 goals in the Cup, 8 goals in the league. And even Brian Robson chipped in with 14. So we're talking about 53 goals shared amongst 3 players. Who was the guy who scored 23 of them?
I know.
It was his best ever season as a striker.
Best ever season.
And you're saying it weren't Brian Robson. You're saying Brian Robson got 14 that season, so it weren't Pop Robson.
But it was his best ever season.
As a striker
ever season.
Oh, Clyde Best.
He done you, Nige. He done you big time. Russ, how did you keep that going? Yes, Clyde Best was absolutely impossible to shrug off the ball. You know that I've got to say, you sometimes see that. The only player I've seen for West Ham who looks sometimes incapable of getting the pace together to beat a player, but holds the ball, is Antonio in some of his greatest moments. You know the strength of that play. Traore is a similar player. This muscular thing that just kind of, you're not shaking me off. And in a more svelte way, it was something Jimmy Greaves had as well. Once he got the ball, it was almost like it was stuck to his foot. You couldn't get it off him. Greaves kind of slid through, whereas Antonio and Best sort of muscled through. And Best was impossible in the air for defences, certainly for that season. I remember looking at it and thinking, Clyde Best, we've got Clyde Best. And Manchester United have got George Best. Who's he?
Yeah. If you look at, but funny enough, if you look at Clyde Best, you look at Antonio's now, they've both played 7 seasons. They've almost got identical games and identical goals. There we go.
That's a brilliant spot. That is a brilliant spot. But you know
when you went identical, you had me worried there when you mentioned George Best and Clyde Best, because I was wondering where you was going.
But the thing Russ does, Russ is not emotionally invested in these times of West Ham because he wasn't there. I think if you were there, I mean, for me, Clyde Best was playing the first season I saw West Ham. And he was our striker. And I loved seeing Geoff Hurst was for me like seeing Sean Connery. It was like a seeing in the flesh, that's him out there, and like almost being able to touch him, and to think, because for me and for anyone who loves football, of course, the footballers are, and now they are like film stars because but in those days, I mean, they weren't earning money like film stars, but they still had that sort of fame. You were talking about them when you were playing in the playground, and you blow your cheeks out to be Geoff Hurst, because that's what he always seemed to do when he shot. Every time you went to shoot, you'd go. And of course, with me, it would go flying over the bar. But did you see that penalty, by the way, against Stoke City? The one he scored against Banks? Is there anyone in the universe who could have saved that? It was like right in the corner and going at about 100 miles an hour. Have we got any penalty takers in the Premier League now who just kick it as hard as they can, who just blast it? Answer?
No. I wouldn't say first team, like people who are, you've got your lumpets. So you got. I mean, I'm not comparing apples to apples, but I mean, when we had the penalty shootout against Man City, Craig Dawson thumped it. It tends to be the more like in England, obviously Slabhead and Maguire.
Dawson's a 70s footballer. Dawson's come to us in a time machine, don't you think? Yeah. I just think he's got nothing to do with the Premier League, and yet he's succeeding in it. Great goal against Newcastle. Just he can get up there and score. And, I know he had a couple of dodgy games earlier on, but this is a guy who was excuse my French, a bog average player at Watford and West Brom. And now he, at times, only at times, I'm not getting carried away, he can look bloody world class. And he's playing alongside players who've done Champions League and all that. And he'll block the ball. The number of blocks that bloke. If you could count a block that saved a goal, he would definitely be in double figures. No question about it. I don't know if you agree with that, Nige. Do you think? Are you a Dawson fan? I know we should be talking about Geoff Hurst.
Yeah,
we will come straight back to Hurst in a bit.
Quickly, I think I suppose modern day era for £3 million. It's one of the bargains of the 21st century that West Ham have paid. I don't know in real terms how you equate, to the bargain players of the past. Billy Bonds, 50 grand. Bargain. Alan Dempsey, the biggest bargain at £5 grand. A couple of tracksuits.
We have 3 tracksuits.
But when you look at it, £3 million, what that actually buys you. I mean, and I think what you got to look at as well is that when he was signed, or when he was brought in on loan, when he made his debut, the outpouring of, oh my God, Dawson's playing before the game was soon spun round. So all the power to him. He wasn't welcomed with open arms.
But he was a squad player for a while, wasn't he?
Yes. I think it was like the November or the late October, November. He came into the team because of injury. And then obviously he's kept the shirt, hasn't he?
He has.
He basically, when you looked at the 4 that we had, the 4 defenders that we had, which was Balbuena, Diop, Ogbonna and Diop would have been the first pairing, and then Balbuena and Dawson would have been 3 and 4, and I'd have put Dawson as number 4 in that because Balbuena had such a great first season. So to go from that, where actually you could argue he's earned the right to be, number 2 in that list. Replacing Balbuena with Zuma.
I'm going to do a segue with your thing on £3,000, and let's look at Geoff Hurst coming to West Ham. He could have gone to Arsenal.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? So you've got to say to Ted Fenton, okay, he played him in the wrong position. Well, he didn't. He played him in the position he'd been playing. He signed a half-back. Let's put him in. Let's make him a half-back. But what was it? If only we had Ron Greenwood here, we could just sit him down in the chair and say, Ron, what made you think you'd turn Hurst into a striker? Was it out of desperation, or was it something you saw in practice? Because he did try the same with Tommy Taylor, and I've got to say that was an absolute disaster. So it didn't always work. But he certainly got it right with Hurst.
I mean, is it akin to what Moyes has done in a way with Arnautovic and Antonio in taking these players and then putting them up front and turning them into, more prolific goal scorers than we thought they would be. I mean, I think Geoff Hurst, I don't know, I'd imagine he's the first to say that he probably owes his career to Ron Greenwood.
Sure.
He owes everything to Ron Greenwood, not specifically his playing career, but, Ron Greenwood turned to him. He became an England coach in 1977. Well, that coincided with Ron Greenwood taking over when Don Revie left. And I don't know at the time whether there was eyebrows raised, but obviously I think it shows the relationship. If you think of that, it was always Ron Greenwood and his right-hand general was Bobby Moore. But then it speaks a lot of the volume, probably of the relationship between Ron and Bobby Moore, that when he wanted a coach, he turned to Geoff, who at the time, I think had just retired playing for West Brom. I don't know if he was at Telford because he managed Telford in the non-league. So I don't know if he'd done that, but he turned to...
I wonder if he's on a plaque in their players' room.
I mean, I've got a book here. This is one of the first books I got as a kid.
Whoa.
Believe it or not, it didn't work. But it's called Soccer Tactics and Skills. I've had this since I was about 9 years old. And it's the Ron Greenwood book. And you can see there is Geoff Hurst in the middle, one of the coaches that wrote, and basically it's supposed to teach you how to play football.
I was going to say, I saw Ron Atkinson on the back of that.
I mean, you got basically Atkinson, John Cartwright, who was a West Ham youth player in the 60s. He's got Trevor Brookings involved as players, Don Howe, Bobby Robson, Dave Sexton. There's quite a West Ham theme that runs through it, and a very young Howard Wilkinson before he won the title with Leeds. And this is the thing, everybody thinks of Greenwood and Bobby Moore, but obviously it seems to be that probably his favourite son was Geoff Hurst.
Well, I've spoken to the great Brian Deere, Stag, about this, and Brian will give you the full story, and he is very, very good value. Has he done an 11 for you, Russ?
Yeah.
Right. Was it
11? This is my impression of Brian Deere's 11. He basically had the mic camera like that all day. Yep. But mate, really good 11, really good, really some great stories.
He is one of the great West Ham storytellers, and I mean, no wonder the club hang on to him to take people around because he's such good value. But he said, and he wasn't clearly being ridiculously critical because we're talking about three of the greatest West Ham players that ever played. But he said there was this thing that you'd go at a particular time in, I don't know whether it was Friday after training or Thursday after training or whatever, and Ron Greenwood would pin the team on the wall. I mean, why don't you just tell them, for God's sake? So you'd rush around to see if you're in the team. And he said, without going into it too much, there were three names that were always going to be there. And when he said that to me, I said, yeah, Brian, but you're talking Peters, Moore and Hurst. He said, yeah, but imagine you're a squad player, or you're a player looking for your break. And this was a guy, who still scored the fastest 5 goals for West Ham in any fixture, Brian Deere. And I think it was 18 and a half minutes. No one is going to score 5 goals in 18 and a half minutes again for West Ham. They just aren't. I mean, we've seen what happens when we play teams from the amateur league. So don't think that's the way we're going to do it. So, he's not a guy. I mean, he's a guy who's entitled to his opinion. He's earned his right for that. But he said, whilst not in any way decrying the fact that they are three of the greatest West Ham players there ever been, the other side of it was that affected the morale in the team. I mean, like with the fancy Dan's coming now with Premier League teams and, people who are said to be earning X thousand a week. And the other players look at that and think, I'm the one who's scoring all the goals. This guy's not even playing first team football. It's a similar thing. And maybe it's more money now than opportunity. I don't know what you think. It's a difficult one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we had Nigel, me and Nigel were at one of Ian's ex-player nights, and someone asked the question. I think Grealish had just signed for Man City and was on $100,000 a week or whatever. And one of the questions was to the boys of '86, like Georgie Paris and TC and Waldy and Dicko and a few others. How much were they all on when they were playing? Did they talk about money? And I spoke to Dicko afterwards. He went, I never knew what Alvin Martin was on. We didn't talk about that, but they were all on roughly the same money. I think Alvin had an extra £200 bonus when he made an England appearance or something like that. But they were all like £500-600. But no one knew about it. Now everyone knows about it. It's in the press or it's online and things like that. So yeah, it's very very interesting how it's all changed. It's very much.
I don't know what you earn, for example, Russ. We never discuss our pay, do we? No, we'd be shot if we did, I think. We'd probably find out that we're on exactly the same. Or
a bottle of Diet Coke and some Haribo. There we go.
Does Chris Skull get more?
Probably.
Don't start that. I've got to tell you, and again, I'll probably be shot down. This may be the last thing I ever say. She's now switched to dark. But someone rang up and said they'd like that the stadium announcer to do the announcing of people coming in at their wedding, and they send the email to Chris. The stadium announcer,
he just does beat the Batak.
That was just what? Anyway,
keep up. We're on the half-time quiz now, Russ.
Yeah,
yes, cool. Having said that, yes, but
not sponsored by Kiss Me anyway. Yeah.
Clearly not. Certainly not anymore. No, although curiously, the wedding couple are going to Florida. I don't know if there is a link there. Anyway, so the miracle of Hurst. There are two miracles, aren't they? Really, the miracle is the transformation from half back to centre forward, and we're using these kind of 60s positions. I don't know if again, those of you that don't even go back to 4-2-4. We're talking about we had a left and a right back. You had a left half, a centre half, and a right half, and you had left wing, right wing, inside right, inside left, and centre forward. That was your 11, and that remained the case forever. That was the World Cup winning side of '66. And Ron Greenwood, let's face it, he went over to Italy, I think, and saw the way teams were playing and came back with ideas and changed things around.
I'll put this up just for those to understand our teams used to line up. This is not
a well done. Brilliant. That's what we need. Yeah, that's what we need.
This is a game from the late 50s in the FA Cup against Stockport. But if you look there, that is how. So obviously Gregory's the goalkeeper. Bond and Cantwell were sort of, and Brown were sort of three centre halves. It was like a 2-3-5, basically.
But you would say that if you just hold it there for 1 second, Nigel. This was, if you know, actually, that players were even numbered in their position. So the number 1, the goalkeeper, Jim Gregory. Number 3, the left back, number 3, and we still have that with Aaron, and he's wearing 3, isn't he? John Bond's number 2, right back. We've got Lansdowne, who's left half, number 6. Ken Brown, number 5. Although Bobby Moore was actually in the centre of defence. You did see him wearing number 5.
Yeah,
when
this game is very early, late 50s. This game,
late 50s. But this was the classic one. Then you've got Malcolm as at number 4. That's right half. Musgrove on the left wing, number 11. Dick, number 10, who's inside left. Vic Keeble, the famous Vic Keeble, number 9, centre forward. You've got Lewis on the inside right, and out on the right wing, Grice. You'll notice, those of you that remember, that Harry Redknapp played on the right wing. We got Redknapp on the wing. Redknapp, Harry Redknapp. We got Redknapp on the wing. We used to sing, and he wore number 7. And
so when Hurst broke in, he would have been number 4.
Yes, absolutely correct. Spot on. He wore. There is a photograph of him with a number 4 shirt. But you can see Bond and Cantwell there, right back and left back, and those two were put as strikers in the first game that Hurst played. So that's a brilliant team to have brought out. Nige, that illustrated it perfectly. We could almost have prepared it.
Yeah. Well, I got it out to looking for Hurst stuff, and that was filed in the not Hurst stuff. But luckily,
stuff other than Geoff Hurst.
Yes, luckily I managed to utilise it.
So I'm going to, I mean, again, it's unfair, I suppose, because none of us really saw the great moments of their career. But was Geoff Hurst better than Jimmy Greaves? I've got this thing about Greaves. The most incredible thing about Greaves, and we're going to have to, this isn't going to work if you look at his time at Chelsea. I've got to tell you this, and I didn't even know it. This is Jimmy Greaves playing for Chelsea between 1957 as a young teenager and 1961. He played 169 games and scored 132 goals. I mean, what is that? I mean, and he went, what? So much so that AC Milan bought him, which was just unthinkable that an English player would go to Europe. But he did. He only played 14 games for AC Milan, but he scored 9 goals. I think he was homesick. Do you think I would imagine so. So then he comes to Tottenham. 379 games. We say Hurst played 502 for West Ham, yeah? Between 61 and 70, so if you include that one as an overlapping season, you're looking at nearly 10 seasons there. 379 appearances, so best part of 38 games a season. 266 goals. So that is more than 2 goals every 3 games. Okay, so clearly not a goal a game, but two goals every 3. And even for West Ham, for whom he played 40 games, he scored 13 goals. So even at we have to call it the fag end of his career, he was still.
I think we called it the bottle end.
The what?
The bottle end.
The bottle end. Well, bless him. Of course, Jimmy, who we lost last year, and quite amazing. He was also 6 times he was the top scorer in the league, more than any other player. 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 63, 64, 64, 65, and 68, 69. 68, 69, and also. He won the Serie A. I don't know how you can count that, just playing 14 games, but, whatever. FA Cup 62, 67, Cup Winners' Cup 63, World Cup 66, which he finally got a medal for because he was part of the squad. Okay, so that counts as his honours. And so I know you might say, well, this is about Geoff Hurst. But it's not just about Geoff Hurst, it's about Jimmy Greaves, because these were the 2 most prolific English strikers in the 1960s, and very important to compare them because obviously Hurst was very much second in that until because of Greaves's injury, until he got into the side. And also Alf Ramsey made the decision not to drop him when Greaves was fit again. And for all the Greaves fans, how aggrieved they might be about that, you've got to say the results prove that Ramsey was right. Hurst came in and did the business, and he was difficult. He was a handful. He was a difficult player to mark. They say, I've read people's football biographies that have said, autobiographies of defenders that said he was always a player you didn't want to mark. You didn't want to, because of course in those days man-for-man marking was more the way they played football, not so much these days. They've got the zonal stuff and what players do off the ball and all that. But Hurst was something of an enigma. This is a guy who managed to twice score. In 65-66, a season where West Ham finished 12th, he scored 40 goals. Next season, 66-67, obviously his confidence is sky high. He scored a hat-trick. He scores 41 goals and West Ham finished 16th. How can you have a striker score for 41 goals and the team he's playing for finish 16th? I mean, that is nuts. I mean, is that not nuts? And what does that tell you about how much better a striker he was than the stats show us? I would say, I mean, look at the team Greaves is playing in. You know, the knock on from the double side and the bottle end, fag end, what you like of that. Well, of course he's going to score. You see so many times when he goes through one-on-one and he just writes it in. I
mean, with the comparisons with Greaves, if you look at his Chelsea stats, Martin, read his Chelsea stats out again. 100 and
this is just wrong. 169 apps, 132 goals. So that is pretty much.
And he left Chelsea in 1961. Now Greaves was a year older than Geoff Hurst. And Geoff Hurst scored his first goal for West Ham, I think, in 61.
But, yeah, he did. And that would have been probably a bit of a fluke because he wasn't a striker.
You know, so...
But the moment Hurst hit the ground, you know, in that season where Greenwood is the manager, he scores 26 goals. And Budgie Byrne got 33. So you're going to have to get... you know, the scraps that Byrne isn't finishing. And as you saw on those early shots, Hurst was a maker of goals, a maker of opportunities. But Byrne had to just tap two of those in. Hurst did all the work and just put it on a plate. In went Byrne.
I think that showed there the knowledge he got from playing his early career, sort of halfback or wide right.
Yes,
the ball into the box near post. It was obviously something that was drilled into him. It was a Greenwood tactic, and I think there was a couple in the video where you look. Martin Peters got a few headers where
there's that one unbelievable diving header right in the top
corner, and from the cross from Hurst just as he crossed the line, early ball into the box aimed at the near post. Now, if you look at the England goal that he scored against Argentina to win 1-0 in the World Cup quarter-final, tough game, it's possibly the most West Ham England goal you'll ever see because it was a goal developed by Ron Greenwood, but I think there was a foul on Bobby Moore. He quickly gets up, he points, takes the free kick. The thing in those days, you only had like you only had a couple of cameras. So what you see is Bobby Moore just pointing, takes the free kick. As the camera pans round, Hurst is there, near post, header, bang, goal. 1-0, England win. We're in the semi-finals against Portugal. And then, Geoff Hurst's career is written into folklore, basically, now. You know, it becomes a national hero rather than just a local hero. For what he goes on to achieve.
I think that's true. And I think also, if you look at a modern day, I'm saying modern day, slightly more modern day West Ham goal scorer, Tony Cotty, who also had a good season at Everton. Cotty and Hurst share an interesting stat with, actually Cotty carries it through quite miraculously, even in the low days of West Ham sides he played for, in that he was always, apart from the Frank McAvenny season, he was always the top scorer for West Ham. Even, look, there's one season, I think, when he scores 13 goals or something, and he's still the top scorer.
He had Dave Swindlers next to him then, though, didn't he?
Well, there you are. Yes. So I am going to talk about partners. I want to talk about partners, the partners that we're talking about Hurst and Byrne, and we talk about later on Hurst and Best, and then for a brief time Hurst and Robson. Also, I'm going to talk about the season after Hurst left, because I'm going to pick up what I put down that Brian Deere said, and I'm going to come back to that. So I didn't just throw that in to have a go at him, because I think the guy had a point, and I'm going to make that point in a moment. But if you look at Hurst, you're looking, right, so let's just we'll just go through the things. Obviously, no goals in his first season, 60-61. That one goal you talked about in 61-62, where West Ham are 8th. Then he scores in 63-64. West Ham are 14th. He gets 26. Johnny Byrne 33. 64-65. They're 9th. Geoff Hurst gets 19. But that's the last time they are in the top 10 until 68-69, where Hurst gets 31. And yet, in seasons when they're 12th and 16th, he scores 40 and 41, 25, 31, 18 in 69-70, which wasn't a great season for West Ham. Then in 70-71, where West Ham almost got relegated, if 3 went down, they would have gone. Blackpool and Burnley went down that season. He still was top scorer with 15. And in his final season, 71-72, West Ham were 14th. We had that fantastic run where we got the semi-final against Stoke City. He scored 16. Now, Brian Robson got 14, and again, that was the season that he was outdone by Clyde Best. I don't know if that's why he went, but that thing about going back to what Brian Deere said, 71-72, if you think about it, Hurst has been your striker since 1963. So in other words, almost 10 years, that's the guy. And he goes, and then in 72-73, West Ham had their best ever season under Ron Greenwood. They finished 6th in 72-73, and a certain Brian Robson scores 28 goals, and Hurst hadn't scored that many since 68. And even Trevor Brooking scored 11 that season. It was an absolutely superb season. West Ham played such exciting attacking football. So let's go back to the Brian Deere point.
Quickly, what Pop did there, which no other West Ham player had ever done, not even Geoff Hurst, that season, was he's the only West Ham player to be Division 1 leading scorer.
Absolutely correct. But if
win the Golden Boot or whatever
he scored one goal more, he would have earned a record for West Ham. And I can't remember whether it was most goals in the first full season or most goals in the league. But he needed 29 for that, and he was one short of that. But yes, it was an absolutely extraordinary and not repeated season by Brian Robson, although he did, I think he top scored again when he came back in his second thing. The unlucky guy who misses our 2 cup finals, both of which he'd done enough to deserve a membership of. But I'm asking the question now. I'm asking particularly, Nigel, you're maybe more connected with it, sort of in terms of years. Did West Ham carry Hurst as an automatic selection for too long, that suddenly 72 in other words, was the automatic selection a thing that, although he was scoring goals, obviously we're talking about the 3 of them, that was the thing that stopped West Ham achieving actually domestically after 1965? Because you're talking about 5 seasons when all these goals are being scored and no trophies.
But was the problem? I don't know. The back line. It's difficult to say. The thing is, if you look, he left us in 72. He was only 31.
Wow.
Yeah, he played on for another 6 or 7 years. 6 years, I believe. I think he played till 1977. He was at Stoke for 3 or 4 years and went to West Brom for a couple of seasons.
He didn't enjoy anywhere near the success elsewhere.
No, but I mean, we were conditioned to play a certain way and to utilise her strengths. The thing about, for a good 10 seasons of his career, he was the focal point of the forward line, especially after, for the last 7 to 8 seasons when Budgie got injured, and obviously then Hurst was the main striker. He bore the weight of a lot of getting a lot of goals. The thing is as well is he got a lot of cup goals. I think he holds the record with Ian Rush for the most League Cup goals scored.
Yes, I'm pretty sure you're right about that.
I know his goal record for West Ham in the League Cup was virtually a goal every game.
Well, we saw a hat-trick he scored in the League Cup against Bolton there.
Yeah. If you, I mean, his goals in league football is probably like 1.75, a goal every 2.25 games. It's one goal. If you look at his League Cup stats, it's a goal every game.
So that's good. That's good.
43 games, 43 goals, something stupid like that.
Because in the League Cup, let's face it, with all due respect, you're more likely to play lower league opposition, and therefore cup goals are a little easier to get.
Well, you can only beat what's put in front of you. Of course, if Banks hadn't saved that penalty, not only would West Ham probably have gone to the final, but Ian Rush wouldn't be sharing the record. Geoff Hurst would have it all to himself.
He would indeed. And that was the season, of course, that there were 3 London sides in the semi-finals of the League Cup, and it was won by Stoke. Yes. You've got to love it. So much for,
beat Chelsea in the final.
The domination, they did indeed. And that was one good thing about them winning the cup. Although you kind of, this is like, you had your folk heroes and you had Banks. And certainly when you look at that, Hurst hits the ball quite close to him. But my goodness, that ball is travelling when he turns it over. And it is a bit like that Pele one where he heads it down into the ground. And Banks somehow managed to scoop it up and over the bar.
I think Banks classes that as his best save. I'm pretty sure that.
Yeah. I've heard that.
That he said that's like the penalty save from Geoff Hurst, or was like his favourite more than the Pele one, because of the fact is it was a penalty. So there was sort of more to.
You're not expected, and in those days, I don't know. I could be wrong here, but I don't recall many penalties being missed as a kid watching that. It was quite a shock. I think maybe goalkeepers weren't expected to save them.
Well, I mean, if all you got to do is watch a big match revisited and see the penalties that are scored. I think half the time keepers didn't even dive.
Having a cigarette.
It was just like, he's put it in the bottom corner.
I remember Alex Stepney, when someone chucked a cigarette at him. He looked at it, picked it up, took a lug, and then chucked it back in the crowd. Of course, Alex Stepney was a Cockney. A lot of people don't realise that. He played for Man United in their greatest years. Yes, yes.
Bermondsey boy.
Nice one. So I suppose are players judged sometimes differently at the end of their career, and not necessarily fairly or over? Do people say sometimes with, as the matches distance, people start talking about the player as different to the person that you saw week in, week out?
I mean, the thing about players like Hurst, as the generations change, so realistically, you got to be over 58 to remember him playing for West Ham. So it's people like me generally judge him from the small types of videos that we've seen, or we judge him on the record books. The record books on paper, only Vic Watson sits above Geoff Hurst in the pantheon of strikers for goals scored. If you look at his record at the peak of his career in 64, 65, 66, 66, 67, what was it? We're saying he scored over 100 goals in those 3 seasons.
Which is nuts, isn't it?
So there. And so if you think, as you say, what makes it nuts is yes, we win the FA Cup, we win the European Cup Winners' Cup, but by God, are we shocking in the league? But yet those seasons he's scoring, we cry for a 20-goal a season player in the league. He's getting 29, 30 in.
Right, well, there's a little ingredient here to put in. Watson, obviously, I don't know if anything survives of him in terms of video.
There is. If you go on Pathé News YouTube site.
Yeah.
West Ham's Victor Watson scores in the 31st minute.
Yes, basically. Yes.
Yeah. So you'd see their bloke chatting all over it. Well, okay, we've got maybe of those 249 Geoff Hurst goals, we might have 30 of them, maybe not even a fifth of them. And that's Hurst, who's a relatively modern day striker. But every single hip, flash, turn, leap, jump of Antonio is measured. That black bra thing that players put on measures everything about them throughout the game. So every single thing is down to the millisecond. And is this why players don't score 40 goals anymore? Because they get found out. You can like, if you're going to play Antonio, who's the striker, the Wolves, presumably. Here we are. Here's Wolves. This is the heat pattern that Wolves will be looking at. Over there in red is Antonio, because he got stuck on the left, didn't he, the other day?
Yeah, this is a touch map, not a heat map.
Oh, is it? I beg your pardon.
It's a touch map. Because obviously he was in the box, but you can see it's very similar to Lukaku the other day when he had 7 touches in the game. How do you
sort that out? So this is nuts, isn't it? What is this telling us? And there are people who can psychoanalyze that. And even if they can't, it gets into your head a little bit. You think, well, they're going to know exactly what I do. Yeah. Like that time, who was it who took the penalty? And they said, every single one he scored down there. And of course, Fabianski still got down to it. That
was on Sky, and they accidentally, the guys who in the truck didn't switch it off, so you could see. He looked up and he saw. Okay, all right, thanks.
I can promise you that Fabianski will already have known that. Yeah. But even so, it's a bit much to put it on the screen. So, by the way, ref, can you just check? Can we just VAR the fact that he didn't do that? No, put it down the other end or something. The thing is overkill, has it changed the game forever? And will we never get back the purity of those days? You know, the Hurst scored all those goals and people still didn't really know what to expect. Not just because, I mean, you'd think you'd get to know Geoff Hurst is the guy who scored 3 in the World Cup final, but you only played him twice a season. And of course, you might have seen he's on Match of the Day. As West Ham weren't successful, Spurs were. Spurs were on telly a lot more than West Ham. You check out, there are twice as many Greaves goals on film than there are Geoff Hurst. If Hurst had been playing in a successful team, there'd be more of his goals available to watch. So does that make a difference to a player's performance, how much they're seen? And we were looking from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties to now. Have players changed as a result of exposure?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I call it death by analysis.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
We're certainly guilty of that.
I'm not bothered about heat maps or all that crap. You know, I don't see why players have to wear a bra that tells us where they're running, because we can watch it, basically. And, you know, a coach should be able to watch a player and not need to sit at a computer after the game and analyse this and that. What they're trying to do there is find that extra 0.5%. Yeah. And this is where it comes by death by analysis. What they're saying is, if you did 0.5% better, you might have got that goal. Where I think that's bollocks. And actually,
how does that help a player?
It don't for me. I think
short you know, of what I need.
You look at the coaching staff; half of them are analysis people, sitting there with data and everything else. And you know, when the club ain't got a lot of money, that's an easy fix for me. Sack the bloody lot of them. You know, will it change? No. Moyes will send the team out to set up a certain way. They will go and play it. How comes that players back in the day, even recently, didn't need all this technology? Why did players back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you know, eat steak at 12 o'clock on the day of a game?
Yeah.
Drink beer steak, like it was going out.
Drink beer. You know, 8 days to digest a steak.
They didn't.
Still digesting it following Saturday.
You know, they didn't have to, you know, be ripped and everything. They smoked, they drank, they played on the worst pitches going. Yeah, you know.
But nice, they all did
play.
You didn't just have one team doing that. So it's like the lowest common. It all moves down.
You would have 15 players max or 16 across a whole season. Where some games you can get 15 players or 16 play in a game now. Yeah, you look back to 80-81. We played 61 games. You know, I think we had 3 ever presents. A couple missed 1 game. Yet now we're complaining that players that have played 30 games already are tired. Oh, they need a rest.
Right. Coming to the next point,
which they're playing on carpets. You know, they're more fitter and everything else, and people are going to be screaming at me going, but the game's quicker now. Well,
right. Well,
they're fitter, so they should be able to play quicker then, isn't it?
Look at it. Greaves and Hurst both enjoyed a relatively injury-free careers, both of them, okay? So they're playing on lumpy pitches, muddy pitches. You've seen some of those things. Things where your studs could get caught as you turn around, you rip the ankle. You were heading footballs.
They had two things far worse than any of that, Martin. It was called Chelsea defenders and Leeds United defenders.
Of course, they invented it. But you've got football also that can be like a ball of concrete if it's got dried mud on it, and you go up and you're heading that. So there's another thing. You've got crossbars actually were made of, I don't know if it's worse now or better, but certainly wouldn't have wanted to hit your head against that, or certainly put one leg either side as you're sliding in. So and also you might play 2 games in 2 days. Over the Christmas period, you might play 3 games in 5 days. They did it. 3 games in 4 days, I found. So, and yet, okay, everybody's doing it. But now we have carpet pitches, the best health you can get. People are eating more carefully. The preparation is more sophisticated. The fans are. There's so much more going on with football, and yet footballers get injured every 2 bloody games. I mean, Ogbonna should be playing for us this season.
Southampton.
What's going on? What's Southampton?
What I told you about Southampton.
Oh my God! Say it.
So 15, I think something like 16 or something in their 24 games. They've had an injury between 60 and 70 minutes. Which has meant
allegedly
the physio has come on, and they've all had gone over to speak to Ralph and had their gels. It's the unofficial water break, Southampton.
And Russ and I will tell you all out there, those of you, although you would have still seen half the bloody game, excuse my French, they tried to get a water break, didn't they, Russ? When they started having this water break in the games behind closed doors at around about 22 minutes. And then suddenly, the managers came on and the drinks came out, and you thought, what? They're going to have an advert break soon. This is going to become American football. And once the crowd started coming back in again, they tried it a bit.
Yeah, tried for the first game.
But what Russ is saying is, we're not out of the woods yet where that's concerned. We're getting these 70th minute, a guy goes over, no contact with the player, suddenly everybody runs. It's like Bob Stokoe or David Pleat running across the pitch. Everyone runs on, it's nuts. So to return to the question, here we are with that modern football. Is modern football, why are we not able to produce a team that have 11 or 12 players like West Ham 85-86, bearing in mind some of them were 3 games played in 4 days, that can play through the whole season? Show me a team. I'd love someone to give me the stat of the team this season who's had the least injuries, and let's see where they are in the table. Can we do that? What do we know straight off the top of our head? Who's going to have done? I mean, we didn't do too bad last year, did we?
I think that was part of the reason I think we did quite well last year, because we didn't have any major injuries, really.
That was
apart
it.
From Antonio, really. Was the
Why there's so many injuries? Do either of you know that? Everything is perfect for footballers, and there's less contact now than there ever was. You don't get the Leeds and Chelsea.
But the problem is that where they're fitter, their bodies are more conditioned.
Yeah.
There's probably more muscular injuries now than there probably was back in the day.
There's no fats to cover the muscle.
Groins, tears. Yeah, it's just
bring back the steak and chips. Come on.
We remember interviewing Stag, and Stag said they did a cross country run all the way around Epping Forest, all around there, all round back to Chadwell Heath, and then they had a full roast dinner waiting for them at Chadwell Heath. It was like brilliant.
They earned it.
Love it.
I mean, if you look at his career at his peak, he played 200 over 200 games in 4 seasons, Geoff Hurst. 50 games a season, every season.
It's crazy.
And what you forget there, this was when he was playing for England as well.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's a good point.
So he was playing 50 times for West Ham, another 10 or 12 for England.
And knocking all those goals in.
Yeah, and getting 30, 40 games, goals in that time as well.
Do you think if there'd been maybe if Byrne had been a little bit younger, but do you think if he'd had a player with him that West Ham would have been more successful? I mean, to be...
No, I think if he'd have had a better centre half next to, not knocking Ken Brown, or these are literally the greats of the club. But at the end of the day, I think you can safely say the problem was at the back, not at the front. So, goalkeeper-wise, Jim Standen, was he the best? No. Could we have done better? Well, with the famous stories, we could have had Gordon Banks after 1966. But we signed Bobby Ferguson on the gentleman's handshake with Kilmarnock because it had all been agreed. If we'd have had Gordon Banks then coming in after the World Cup, because Leicester wanted to bring through Peter Shilton.
That would have been 4 out of 11 of the World Cup.
So this was 67 when we signed Bobby Ferguson. I think it was either Geoff Hurst or Bobby Moore went to Alf Ramsey Ron Greenwood to say that like Gordon wants out of Leicester, they're going to start bringing through Peter Shilton and everything else. And obviously, I don't know, there was contact made, but Ron had already had a gentleman's agreement with Kilmarnock manager to sign Ferguson, who we paid, I believe, a British record for a goalkeeper.
£65,000.
Yeah, but it was a record. I believe it was a record fee at the time for a goalkeeper. I think he was only about 21 as well, Bobby Ferguson. I mean, look, great servant, played up until 1980, 81. Yep. Bobby Ferguson.
Not too many games in those last 7 years.
No, I mean, he was sort of a bit or miss. He came in, he replaced Jim Standen, but then obviously he had his injury problems, dislocating shoulders, stuff like that. And then Mervyn came in, and then he couldn't catch a cold, and then too young, I think, for Mervyn Day, in my opinion.
Although, again, I followed his entire career. He just had this thing where he used to come up to the halfway line. He got caught out against Birmingham and Everton, and he lost his confidence.
Yes, there's a few there's a few clips of Mervyn perhaps not doing so well for West Ham. He was moved on to Orient, but of course we then brought in Phil Parkes, and the rest is history.
Phil Parkes.
But Bobby Ferguson was always there or thereabouts. So if you look at the bench for 75 and 80, you will see Bobby Ferguson was there on the bench.
Yeah. I think Greenwood was, Peter Grote, I remember him.
Yeah,
I remember him rolling around in the mud,
I believe.
But I think Ron Greenwood's focus was on creative attacking football, and he kind of, I would say, he took his eye off the ball, because that's the analogy taken to an extreme. But I think the problem is, you're quite right, Nigel. There's no question about it. It was the defence, and you've only got to look at the stats. I mean, how do you produce a player scoring 41 goals a season and not be in the top 5, let alone not even be in the top 10?
Right, I can give you Ron Greenwood's stats. You ready?
I'm ready.
In 13 seasons.
I'm going to say, if you're listening at home, probably pour yourself a whiskey before you...
Well, in 13 seasons, we scored 856 goals.
Don't give us the rest of that stat. Can we just live with that for a moment?
Yeah.
800 and what?
56 goals.
For nearly 1,000 goals.
Yeah, in 13 seasons.
What?
But we rolled up. But
There's always a but.
No, but this is a twofold thing though. So bear with me. We conceded 847. So we averaged 1.57 goals a game, which is not the best. There's a better manager out there, but it's the best for the modern day managers of West Ham. If you start from the 60s as the modern day, what that stat is though is wrong. Apart from David Moyes, Ron Greenwood's the only West Ham manager to score more goals than he conceded.
Yeah.
So while his goal difference is only +9, no other West Ham manager's got a goal.
But let's face it, it is legends. I mean, Harry Redknapp managed to, in that famous season where we came 5th, he managed to produce a goal difference, a negative goal difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mainly thanks to us losing 5-1 at home to Leeds and 6-0 away to Everton, when our positive goal difference, just the fact that we won so many games was going to make it positive. But Harry chucked it in there.
Well, I will bail him out with the Leeds game. We did have 3 players sent off.
I know.
I mean, that was a fantastic game of football, and I can tell people about that game to the cows.
Ian Wright getting set up. But
Ian Wright, Lomas, and Craig Forrest.
The best thing about it was that I can't remember who the West Ham player was, but we interviewed one a couple of games after that. And I said, you did realise that if one of you got sent off after that, they would have had to have abandoned the game. Yeah. And he said, that's not true. I said, yes, it is. Yeah. You can't play a game with less than 8 players. You can't. If you've had 4 sent off, they've got to abandon it. He said, what, would the club have been fine? I said, no, I think they would just have to have replayed the game. And I checked the stats, and that was right. Why didn't someone get sent off? Or do you think the ref...
I think the last sending off was an injury time, though.
Was it? That might have explained. You might be right there.
It was one of them mad games. The Canio was brilliant. And we lost 5-1, and it don't tell the story of the game because, believe me, we were in that game. Even after we had 2 sent off.
I remember it.
Yeah, we were still looking to score goals.
I
think Leeds got 3 goals really late to run away with.
They did. They did. I mean, some of these. Let me just tell you some of these games that Geoff Hurst played in, because this is also nuts. In this season, right? These weren't all ones that Geoff Hurst played in, but in 60-61, what an amazing season that was. This is the season Fenton hands over to Ron Greenwood, and you can tell it's all over the place at the club. These are some of the results from the season: West Ham 4, Everton 0. West Ham 6, Arsenal 0. Newcastle United 5, West Ham United 5. And West Ham were 5-2 up with 11 minutes to go. West Ham 5, Wolves 0. And they played in the League Cup Darlington, who were 6 places from the bottom of the 4th division. And they lost 3-2. Darlington apparently played with 5 forwards. I started to think, was that the game that gave Greenwood? Was he watching from the stands and thought, I know what I'll do. I'll play with 5 strikers. But there we go.
That's crazy.
And also some other interesting things in that season, 60-61. It's almost worth doing it this season. Ronnie Boyce made his debut, 22nd of October. In a game that West Ham beat Preston 5-2, were to beat Preston in the FA Cup 4 years later. Geoff Hurst, the debutant, sorry, not Geoff Hurst, Alan Seeley, who wasn't to have his success at West Ham till 1965, made his debut in April 1961 in a game where West Ham lost 5-1 away to Leicester. In that season, Bobby Moore played 38 games, and John Lyle, which is his most prolific season for West Ham, played 21 games. But what's the link between Geoff Hurst and Trevor Brooking and West Ham United? I'll give you a better clue. What have Geoff Hurst and Trevor Brooking got as West Ham United players that no other players got? I can't believe you haven't worked this one out.
Well, at first point, I was going to thought, well, they both wore number 10 for a start.
That's good. That's interesting. You've come up on something quite interesting there. And Brooking started scoring goals, didn't he, after Geoff Hurst left? So that might have been something because he was.
Well, Hurst is. I don't know. I know Brooking played 47 games for England.
Big clue coming. Start again. Big clue coming up. Not a football thing.
Oh, is it a cricket?
Related to football, but not actually a football thing. The thing that they both have.
Both brother. Do they both have a copper as a brother? Because Trevor Brooking's brother is a copper.
The people out there going, "Come on, Sir Trevor Brooking, Sir Geoff Hurst. Come on, guys, come on, keep up." What was the other? There was just one other thing I wanted to just say. Oh yeah, that 72-73 season, which again is Geoff Hurst's first season without. With West Ham without Geoff Hurst, they did that same thing. West Ham, when they're winning, they're doing well. They just over-egg the pudding a little bit, and they bought at the end of that season Ted McDougall and spoiled it all. Everything was perfect. Ted McDougall, that's well worth the programme. So I suppose Geoff Hurst. Well, I saw him as an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old. So that only one of the three of us actually physically saw him play for West Ham. And I can't really honestly tell you that I could see why he was so great in that short period I saw him. Saw that very peculiar goal he scored against Chelsea, where the keeper, Peter Bonetti, a surprise, just watches the ball go into the corner of the net. So West Ham had these really unsatisfying nets that were very... The bit between the post and the stanchion or stanchion was very narrow, so the ball would go in the goal. There wasn't like a huge amount of. I always thought this would psychologically mess with West Ham strikers. There wasn't this pleasure of the ball going into the goal, right into the back of the net and staying there, or it would just go in and come out. So it was like it wasn't really a goal.
To be honest, though, they didn't have a lot of room, did you? If you think
I know they didn't. I know we'd always trade that.
I don't think Russ. Do you remember the North Bank and the South Bank?
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah,
how close they were.
But yeah, there wasn't a lot of space for the.
In a Hans Christian Andersen book entitled "Tales of West Ham United." I can tell you those goals were not big enough. I wanted to see the goal bulge. I wanted to see the net go right back. But it's like, boom, it went in, out. Sometimes you didn't even know that if the ball hit the stanchion and came out, you thought, was that a goal? Was that a goal? And if the ref wasn't watching closely, you got the feeling that it wouldn't be given. No, this were not days of VAR, especially if you haven't got cameras or anything there to prove it. But I suppose we kind of. I'm looking at the time, and I know I don't know if we are. Are we on a time thing, Russ? Here?
Yeah, we'll. A little bit longer.
We're moving. We're moving towards the. My controversial suggestion would be that Hurst playing it, although he did have an automatic place, that wasn't any reason why it didn't stop him scoring 40 and 41 goals. I do think he could have scored more in later years. But I would argue that Hurst was one of the greatest strikers this country ever had. And I do agree also with Nige that what he would have learned playing as a halfback would have helped him in the long run, because Peters often played in his early years halfback for West Ham. So he also had that, although he was more like an attacking midfielder in modern parlance. But they had, under Greenwood, they had a greater freedom. I suppose the freedom of knowing they were always going to be selected, that must have helped. But these were two amazing goal scorers, Peters and Hurst, and worked together so well. And Hurst just, I think, playing in one has to say, a goal scoring but a goal conceding side in the late 60s, it makes Hurst's achievements really special. And I mean, obviously we're giving him 10 out of 10 because he is the one on which we model the other strikers. But I think it also shows how brilliant Tony Cotty was too. Different strikers. Geoff got out of the penalty area now and again, scored some of his goals from outside. Sorry about that, TC. But TC, 146 goals for West Ham. You know, That's a lot of goals, and 249 from Geoff Hurst. How do you think Geoff would do in the modern game?
Yeah, I think he's one of them players you could probably look back at in the 60s and then say he would transfer over into the modern game. It's difficult to gauge how many goals they would have got, but if you look at the power of his shooting, you know, and you take into consideration the facts of the pitches and the balls that they used, and that the power of his shots would be there now, and actually probably be a bit harder. So, and his movement off the ball, the thing that made him special was ability to, which was coaching from Greenwood. As I say, that with the England thing, why it worked so well was they understood each other, but it was the movement into space. So the big thing was they worked out that to cut the goalkeeper out. Why he got a lot of goals? He got a lot of headed goals and a lot of shot goals. But Greenwood's thing was, if you play the ball to the near post, you're taking the goalkeeper out of the equation. Because if you're playing it to the back post, it gives the goalkeeper a chance to read where the ball's going, come out and catch it. So therefore, Greenwood's plan was to hit the front post. But what he wanted to be done is he didn't want the player to be standing at the near post. He wanted the player to come in late. And it was all to do with understanding. So if you had someone like Creswell crossing the ball into the near post for Geoff Hurst to come from the back corner, he wouldn't run along the line. He would be running in at an angle from back to front rather than a cross. He runs in forward, but an angle meets the ball at the near post. You could see it in his. It's quite strange if you look at Geoff Hurst's FA Cup final goal. You know, it's the crossbar bounces down, and it's the Kelly, who is the Preston goalkeeper, whose son played, I think, 4 games on loan for us. Strange little weird stat.
Good stat.
Yeah.
Good stat.
The Preston keepers had 2 sons, both goalkeepers, and I'm sure one came in on loan to us in the 90s. But anyway, the ball bounced down on the line, and this one definitely crossed the line, though.
Because the goalie sort of pushes it in. This is a little horrible moment. Imagine in front of 100,000 people if you're going to do that.
But, I mean, and in a way, you see the same tactic for Ronnie Boyce's goal. You know, but it's coming in late, but it's still a deep cross. We never got so much to the byline to cross. It was more like the Beckham type cross where Beckham wouldn't bother beating the player. He would cross it from halfway between the halfway line and the penalty area. So the ball comes, and it's a difficult angle for a keeper to come out and judge when it's, especially if it is going in at the near post. The best example, I always say, the Argentina goal. Bobby Moore is out wide as the cameras are looking at it. Bobby Moore's more on the left side. He crosses it to the near post. Hurst runs into the box late, meets it at the near post, and heads it past the Argentina goal.
And that's almost the same as his first goal against West Germany in the final.
Yes.
Another quickly taken free kick by Moore. So we're talking about catching the side out, which West Ham have been recently doing. Bowen's runs and were, you know, and
the free kick the other day. That was
the other day. A perfect example. But Lingard also having that deft touch. There's a sad name to mention and not have it in the same sentence as West Ham. But some of his early brilliance for West Ham was about the unexpected and the catching. And again, if the football is played so fast now, to catch another side out really does take some clever planning and thinking. And are we saying that Jared Bowen on the end of a Cresswell cross, it could be echoes of Greenwood, something like that?
Well, I mean, you look at. you look also like I know it's a slightly different position, but last season the amount of goals that Souček got in, that sort of drifty, like late run into the box, wasn't it? From a Cresswell. I mean, Cresswell was a top assister last season.
Yes,
and he would cut. And obviously, that's a massive difference to this season because he hasn't got 10 goals to his name. Souček has. He's only got 1 goal to his name, I think, the Premier League. And so, yeah, I mean, you can definitely see that.
On a much smaller scale. I think if you was going to compare him to a player, in a way, same sort of career trajectory would be Mikel Antonio. in the fact that Antonio, famously played at right back for West Ham.
Yeah,
was predominantly a right winger at his first part, and has been.
He was playing right back and right winger, two positions at the same time.
So it sort of, and then was converted to be a striker. The thing with Antonio, it came much later in his career. Yeah. So where obviously it was done a lot earlier, but obviously that. And if you look at it, and Antonio's good in the air. I think if you look at some of the headers that he scored the last night at Upson Park was an absolutely outstanding header. Yeah. Very Geoff Hurst-esque in a way.
Right.
If you look at the Payet, I think Payet delivered the ball in. That was the equaliser when Antonio's goal. Sacco got the first. I mean, if we're wrapping up. There is one more West Ham moment for Geoff Hurst after he left, when he was manager, and you might realise it, and it's very West Ham-esque.
I've noticed it. It's very West Ham.
He's manager of Chelsea, who I think they did the double over us. They definitely beat us at Upton Park in the early game of the season. But Chelsea are going for promotion. So it's 79-80. And we all know what happened in 1980, don't we, in May? Yeah. What some people may not realise is that we won the FA Cup on the 10th of May. I believe it was the 12th of May. It may have been the 13th. The season's finished. Oh, no, it isn't, people. There's only one game left in Division 2, and that is West Ham against Sunderland away at Sunderland. And I think it was the Monday after the FA Cup. So the season's finished. But why is this game important for Geoff Hurst? Because Chelsea are third in the table and therefore about to be automatically promoted. Unfortunately, Sunderland are fourth and have got a game in hand against West Ham United after the FA Cup final. Yeah. And we ain't getting promoted. But just to throw another spanner in the works, up front for Sunderland that day is a certain Bob Robson, who we know left West Ham. We won the cup, came back, left West Ham, won the cup. And he's actually just watched all his mates run out with the FA Cup onto the pitch in Sunderland, because West Ham took the FA Cup up to Sunderland and run out with it onto the pitch, and they got a round of applause and a guard of honour from the Sunderland players. And Sunderland won the game 2-0. Chelsea had to then miss out on automatic promotion, and Geoff Hurst only lasted another 3 or 4 months as Chelsea manager before getting sacked.
If West Ham had beaten Sunderland,
yes, Chelsea would have been promoted, and Geoff
Hurst would have been, wow, what a great manager you are, Geoff.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not like Jimmy Greaves is injured. Geoff, do you think you're our second best striker? I know, but could you just
there's certain YouTube videos and interviews of him on the big match where I don't think the Chelsea fans were that enamoured with him anyway.
He's an ex-West Ham.
Did
Robson score on that day, by the way, do you know?
That's a good question. That I don't know. I know Sunderland won 2-0.
I can answer that.
If you go and have a look, you'll be able to see. I'm not sure that he did, but I'm pretty definitely sure that, because I remember it was like, I will do it for Pop. Right. Was the headline on the day of the game, when you think, well, you're not going to do it for Geoff then, are you?
Well, the reason, it was 47,000 people there. The game that meant nothing to Sunderland.
No, it did. It meant Sunderland got promoted. It was a big game for Sunderland.
Oh, it was that. Oh, I beg your pardon. I didn't realise that.
So that's the thing. Not only did it knock Geoff Hurst out, it promoted Sunderland.
And they actually took second position in the end.
Yes.
And the goals were scored, just for the completest amongst you. The second one went in the 87th minute.
Yeah.
Arnott scored, and then Cummins. It says, 2 days after winning the FA Cup, West Ham head for Sunderland, who will be promoted at the expense of Chelsea if they win. Hence the electric atmosphere. West Ham lost Pearson and Stewart to injury and finished with 10 men.
Yeah.
Cummins' 30-yarder clincher ignited a huge party. So everyone was celebrating at the end. West Ham
Well, and what you got to remember is so this is played on the Monday. So on the Saturday, West Ham have played and won the FA Cup. On the Sunday, we've all seen the videos of the celebrations at the town hall and the partying that the club did. And 24 hours later, they're like 300 miles up north playing a game of football.
Can you imagine, as a West Ham fan, sitting in a pub with a Mackem at the end, we won the cup, you got promoted.
And Chelsea didn't. And Chelsea didn't.
Yes, that's 3 reasons to drink.
There you go.
I love it. Brilliant.
So we don't have to conclude, does he get 10? He gets 10. That's Geoff Hurst. But Geoff Hurst, as you'll see, it's not as you've seen. It wasn't a straightforward career. It's an interesting career. And other players and managers, very important to Geoff Hurst. And how interesting that he played his last game with Harry Redknapp, who in the later years did provide him with a lot of crosses for a lot of goals. And then Redknapp, as Nige brilliantly completed the thing, then gets the one over on Geoff Hurst in terms of his success as a manager and maker of jam roly-polies and going on. Perhaps Geoff Hurst should do, what's the name, get me out of here?
I'm a celeb.
Well, I've got one last thing to throw at you, Mark. Yeah, and Russ. So you give Geoff Hurst a 10, and obviously that was his synonymous shirt number for both England and West Ham. But where does he rank in the West Ham number 10s if you think that Di Canio wore 10 and Trevor Brooking wore 10? So if we think of 6 being Bobby Moore, that ignores Alan Devonshire for me, which is why I'm upset that they retired the number in reality. So if we've got number 10, who is the best number 10 for West Ham? Brooking, Hurst, or Di Canio?
Oh,
what a tough one. Well, the thing is, we will have had a show on all 3 of them in the end.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It's hard to compare, and this is why I don't like retiring the numbers, because the number 6 has become synonymous with Bobby Moore. I would say mainly after his death, to be fair. Obviously, it took away from what Alan Devonshire achieved wearing number 6 on his back for like 13, 14 years.
Yeah, I think numbers are difficult, but I think Trevor Brooking and Cookie, our great opening bat, both those guys retired too early and could have done more. I mean, Trevor Brooking was so certain that he could have played for another 5 years. He retired in 1983. It was just nuts. If he just played another 2 years, he'd have been in that 85-86 team.
Could you imagine?
You remember him?
Well, you say that quickly. If he'd have played on, then Bonzo wouldn't have retired. I'm not sure whether we'd have had 85-86. 85-86 was born out of the rebuilding of the club after the demise of the late 70s, early 80s team that Lyle built.
Again, it's like West Ham's incredible 72-73 season being the first season after Geoff Hurst, where they actually finished 6th.
And they scored that season, 72-73, what you didn't say, West Ham scored 20 more goals than they did the previous season in the league.
Perfect. And that's that. It's the weirdness of football. And some things just don't make sense. You look at them on paper. If you were there as a fan, you know there's a different feeling. You know, it's like at the moment we're all feeling a little bit, West Ham, because we've lost. Russ completely got it in a nutshell when he said the last time we won well was November. He's absolutely right.
Well, I think Watford. Someone said Watford away was a good game. Yeah, it was, but that was probably it. But yeah, it was that we hadn't played well since November properly and won a game. Won games.
So do we? I know we like to peek a little bit at our weekend thing. We won't have played, and Wolves will have done. Hopefully, they turn Arsenal over on Thursday tomorrow.
Do we want that? And this is the thing. Do we want them to turn Arsenal over?
Yeah.
Of course we do, because then that makes Sunday like a cup final. Because if Wolves beat us on Sunday, they go above us.
I'd rather take a draw.
No, we're not taking the draw. We have to win. What do you mean? Wolves
Arsenal.
I beg your pardon.
Not us. No, yeah, Wolves Arsenal. We to win.
Hard game for Wolves. Well, Wolves have already been beaten at home in a very tight game at Molineux. But we know Wolves on their travels often seem to, I don't want to kind of mess this up, but they seem to play. If you remember, it all went wrong for us starting at Molineux with that 1-0 defeat. That was that was a game we thought we were going to win at a canter, and suddenly found they scored.
That was the game they started playing, wasn't it? Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how important this game against Wolves is. I'm gonna hold this up.
Jesus, you're gonna take that and start smacking.
Is that gonna be on everyone's?
Why is this synonymous?
I remember because they got thrown on the pitch because we bought.
But what was the game?
SBO bet. I don't know. I remember us putting them on the pitch and they got thrown. Everyone started throwing them.
It was 2010. It was March 2010. And West Ham were in relegation trouble, and we're facing a relegation rival.
Or was it a save our season, sir?
It was
game.
The save our season game against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and we lost 3-1. And we scored in injury time. Guillermo Franco got one of his rare goals.
Another
Matt
number
Jarvis
10.
scored for Wolves, and these were given out. Obviously to create atmosphere, and of course,
season,
3/4 of them ended up on the pitch. I kept mine and brought it home.
That is just burnt out of my memory, that season.
But,
any of those.
There you go. Since we're bringing up Wolves, I thought I'd bring up.
We had so many of them save our season games, and I think we lost every one of them.
Yes, yeah.
Well, let's not kind of.
This is a save our season game.
Yeah.
And
if we don't win this,
Wolverhampton Wanderers.
In terms of the league, in terms of our hopes for a Champions League place, this is probably the most important game of the season.
I think that's. I think actually, the fact is, I think to be fair, I think we have been in a slightly false position because of all the extra games being. We've played more games.
Yes.
I know you have to win the games in hand. I know you have to, but I think once it all shakes out. I mean, I think if we finish sixth, I'll be happy this season.
Can I just tell you that if we Spurs have lost 4 of their last 5 games? Okay, they're beat Man City. Anyone can lose 5 games.
Yeah, but Kane won it in the shop window,
off.
didn't he?
Yeah.
He wanted to make him regret not buying him for £100 million.
Look what you can get. But if you look at it, if we finish 7th, and what we're saying is above us then is Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham. Sorry, not Tottenham, Chelsea. So if we can finish 6th or 7th with them there and above Tottenham, you have to look that the finances of those 5, even the finances of Tottenham Hotspur actually, far outweigh anything, even with Kretinsky.
We got a better manager than Tottenham anyway.
So if we can finish 7th and above us, even if we finish 7th and above us is Spurs, I still think if we can say we're the best of the rest, it is a 2-tier Premier League.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. And listen, we're in the Champions League anyway because we've won the Europa League. You go automatically into the Champions League.
Cool. So then whoever's 4th, bad luck.
Yeah.
Unlucky Spurs. That great run when you came 4th in the end, but you lost out because West Ham won the Europa League.
So West Ham, wouldn't it? So West Ham.
No, but they don't miss out, Mark. If they don't. If you finish 4th and you get 5 teams in the Champions League.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, but you wouldn't if the team that wins the Champions League aren't in the top, come from your country.
That's great. You can't have 6 teams.
No, can't. No, so therefore the fourth team would be out, and we would go into
still out.
Yes. Yes. Anyway.
Tottenham get battered.
But our 3 teams in the Champions League are all currently sitting in the top 3 at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of football before the end of the season, guys. A lot of heat maps before the end of the season.
I'll send everyone to Nigel every week because I know he loves them. I've got a great one about Declan Rice in terms of just the influence on the game in terms of his touches. I won't bore you with it today. It's a good heat.
Oh, you can't do that. You've got to tell us.
Oh God. Okay.
Come on.
Let me show you quickly. Then we'll go because I've got a life. Right.
He did have.
Where is it? Right, there it is. Right, full screen. So this is not a true comparison because the 2021 season, this is in the Premier League. This is touches of the ball in the Premier League, and obviously the 2021 season is the whole season. So look at the difference between Declan Rice's this season, because he's only played 20 odd games, compared to 38 games, although 30 games I think he played in the Premier League last year. So much more red, Martin. So much more red. And Thomas Souček, basically the bit that surprised me was the bit in the box. He's not getting the ball enough in the box, which we know.
We're not getting the ball in the box.
Exactly.
That looks like my heart X-ray.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you look, it looks like Rice has stolen part of Souček's achievement this season.
Yeah, I think he has.
Well, I've had a certain debate with some certain people from Claret and Boo's rival channel about Rice is nullified Souček, and have we scored as that hindered? I'm not digging Rice out, but has that hindered Souček? The fact that last season Souček scored 10, Rice scored 2. This season Rice has scored 1.
Yeah.
And Souček scored 3.
Yeah.
So
if Souček gets 2 on Sunday, this will all be forgotten.
Exactly. But it's completely reversed, where Souček was like, last year to this year, it's all green for Souček. Last year, this year, it's all green for Declan Rice. And he's just, he's getting more over 10 touches more in a game.
His contract renewal ain't come at a great time for old Tommy, is it? To be fair.
But it never does. It never does it? It's like when Antonio started going for the ship thing. The chat, by what Moyes said, he'd already signed his contract by then. And he started playing shit. It always happens. You watch Ben Johnson now. He'll be playing crap now for the rest of the season. Now we're going to exercise his 2-year extension. But yeah. Anyway, on that bombshell, gentlemen, it's getting late. Thank you so much. And while we're here, I'm going to promote 6foot2.co.uk. Get on there. If you like your history, you like all this type of stuff, you like your fanzine type articles, it's all there.
It's a bit quiet this week, but that's because I've been researching every manager to manage West Ham.
Manager.
And that is why I could throw out. I've come up with a table to try and work out who have been the best. So I'm going to rank every West Ham manager that's managed.
Macari, no question.
Fact, unfortunately, he don't get a look in because Macari's
one of McCloskey. He changed.
Yeah, but he's only one of 2 managers in West Ham's history not to manage us in the top flight. And I've had to take into consideration that John Lowell was in 2 points for a season and 3 points for a season. So I've worked everything out. It's all been condensed. And
He's the stats man.
Man, those stats are boring. I've fully statted out spreadsheets, everything.
Oh, literally, all
done. And then I worked out a system on how you score them.
We'll have to watch that. Make sure you sign up. And you
people
can
slag me up to high heaven because I made the mistake
of
doing
Don't do it until this season is over, Nige, just because some things are going to happen at the end of this season that might bother your managers a little.
I won't give anything away, but I think no matter what David Moyes does this season, it doesn't change his position.
Wow. Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
3rd position and winning the Europa League? How could that not be the best thing that's ever happened? Especially we're looking where we are now and to think what he's about to achieve.
Yeah.
Hang on
to your hats, people, because I think anybody that reads it, if I can get a lot of people to read it, people may think I'm bonkers.
I love it.
The stats, I've come up with a scoring system. I created a scoring system, but I didn't know what the result would be until I entered all the thing in.
Were you surprised?
Surprised. Sort of, in a way, yes. Because there's one manager there who I don't rate highly, but he did come in very highly.
Oh,
so
that's not too difficult.
I'm going to break it down because it's difficult because you got the 2 points, and plus also what I've had to factor in that since Harry Redknapp, we only played 38 games,
of course,
while the others were playing 42. So all that had to be then factored to convert those that played 42 into 38 league. What would have happened? You had to downgrade and
So it's going to be Avram Grant.
Well, look, nailed on at the end of the day. There is one person nailed on to be finished bottom, and there's poor old Avram. But when I do the cups, Avram may surprise you.
He may surprise you. I remember the story of Avram when obviously the game was it over Yom Kippur, he couldn't do it.
Stoke City away.
And Marty remember Lloyd. Because Lloyd was the go-between, and then it was like 10 minutes to go. I think Lloyd went in a taxi to get back to the station, and then Avram phoned him up. Well, no, not Avram, but Avram, someone he could allow to phone it. Then phone him up. No, he wants to make a sub. He wants to make a sub at the end. So Lloyd had to come back, go on the walkie-talkie to say wherever the sub was, and then go again. Love it, gentlemen. I'm going to let you guys go and get some sleep. Because me and Martin have got West Ham on Sunday, and it's what we're almost on Thursday now. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll put a link to Nigel's website in the description, so feel free to join. You can sign up, become a member of Nigel, and you get
it's all free.
It's all free.
Just an email address, preferably one that works. To the 8 people that put email addresses in that don't work.
224. Just don't understand. Right, but anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm just going to chuck you out now and say thank you to everyone else for joining us. We will be back tomorrow lunchtime for the lunchtime show. Then tomorrow we've got... Where is it? Tomorrow we've got Steve Banks, West Ham, where he played one game in the Anglo-Italian Cup. We've got Steve coming on doing a My Hammers 11. That'll be interesting because I know he played once. We'd all, swapped a lot of our lives for doing that once, and he was obviously from U2 and played for several years in there. So it'll be interesting to see who he played with and who he picks for his Hammers 11. So feel free to join us. It's a live show, so he'll be answering your questions and stuff. I think he's currently the goalkeeper coach at Blackpool. I think it's Blackpool. But anyway, and from myself, from Martin, and from the shed man himself, Nigel Khan, 6foot2.co.uk. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. And thanks to all our lovely channel members. See you later. Bye-bye.
It's like a family tree.